Hello, welcome back to my live stream. Got some good music going on today. We are building a Worldle clone with Remix. And I was just looking at some stuff to get going and wanted to share something with Remix that was not intuitive that I came across. And that is that since the live stream, if I try to run the dev command with how we had set things up before, we get this error, invalid route module file, blah, 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 to my CSS. And that is my CSS file here that I put in for my posts page. And of course, that makes sense. That is invalid as a route because a route represents like a page. So in order to fix that, I'm going to create a new directory called assets and then something called styles. And in there, I'm going to take this file and move it. So this should no longer be assets.css. I'm just going to call that main.css for now. I think that's probably the only CSS file I'm going to need. And now I need to change where this is. That's going to go up. This should be /assets/styles/main.css. And that probably shouldn't even exist in this route because here we're saying this is the style specific to this route, but I think this is the only route we're going to have anyway. So let's see how that works, right? We try and run dev. We're still getting some stuff. This is saying could not resolve that, so I have the path wrong. So that should go up into, oh, that's in routes. So that may only need to go up one directory. Cool, looks like it's working. Let's go to localhost 3000. And it looks like our app is running. Cool. We have a bunch of ends printed to the page for Nugget. But we actually don't need these. I put them there to make sure that we could see that our divs were working correctly, our placeholder divs here. I actually saw something interesting the other day. I was looking through some source code, some Vue source code, and I saw that I know I had shared that you can create a new array. So this is the length that we want to hit. I'm just going to get rid of all that. All right, we want to create an array with 6 items in it. Oh, Ben D. Myers, what is up? Thanks for stopping on the stream. Sorry, I was ignoring the chat for a minute. Hi, Ben. Glad to have you here. Yeah, we're doing some remix run stuff and building some Worldle clones. And I'm good, thank you. You're great. I'm not sure what you mean. Coding skills, good at being a dog owner and giving him lots of attention. I'm just good in the sense of I don't do bad things, I just do good things. That's not true. But Ben, thank you. You're very kind. So yeah, I wanted to show this other way to make an array. And our target is an array with 6 items. Oh, thank you, Ben, for explaining that. Ben, in fact, is correcting. Yeah, I'm not good. I'm okay. I'm good that I apologize for ignoring the chat. So, in fact, I retain my position as not being good. Thank you. Yeah, so if we want to create an array with a length of 6, we can just build one with array.from method and pass in any object that has a length of 6. Whoa. And the cool thing here is we can also, I don't like what it's doing there. Right. So this array.from, it actually takes a second parameter, which is a function that you can use to basically define how those items in this new array are going to be created. Ben, too kind. Top quality coding skills and dog ownership. I don't think me. I think you must have me confused with someone else. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on that in case you see that. I like this syntax because it's generally shorter, which is not a good reason to like anything code when you compare it to a syntax that is generally more explicit. So we're going to make a little correction to what we've got. You know what? Yeah, there you go. GitHub Copilot had me set up with that. I don't like that broke onto a new line, but that's all right. Cool. So now we've got our array. It's pushing back an array with 6 items, of which those 6 items are themselves arrays with 5 items. And I wonder if I do that, if that's just going to be a 2-dimensional array of undefined objects. Let me see that. Go to my console. And yeah, cool. So we get what we want. 6 arrays, each of them with 5 items that are undefined. That's great. Oh no, my camera's... Let's see if I can see what's going on there. Yeah, fixed. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're going to get into some CSS today and get this layout going. So we have our things. We don't really care about the contents of the second array. The first array we do want to be undefined things. And then I'm going to give these a class, this div here. And I'm going to give them a class of border 1 and border white. And I really hope you're okay with atomic CSS stuff. I'm writing my own. Border 1 is going to be border 1 pixel solid. And border white is just going to be border color. Cool. 1 picture solid. So I think that should default to the current color of the element. That should give the border color of white. If we look at our stuff, we see a whole lot of divs with the border white, and they don't have anything in them. So we need to do a little bit of padding stuff as well. We'll do the padding of say padding. I don't want to write that all out. Man, naming stuff is tough. I want this to be, let's say, 4 pixels, right? So I'm going to say padding is 0.25 rem. I prefer rem values, but I prefer thinking in pixel values, which is why we have the 4 for the name and the 0.25 for the rem. Rem, of course, is based on the root element, which is the body, which would have, by default, a font size of 16 pixels. So 0.25 times 16 is 4. Okay. So we need border, we've got padding of 4. Let's see. Cool. This has 4 pixels of padding. Looks good. All of our things are there. So now, now what do I need? Oh yeah, my grid. So my column 6, I want this to be, I have GitHub, Austin Gill, utils. I just have a folder in my GitHub for all of these things I can look up really quick. So I know that I want responsive columns. I think that might be more than I actually want. I'm not going to take that. I'm going to come here and test it out. So this should be column 6. I want to be grid template columns. Oh no, I lost it. Grid template columns, and I want this to be repeat 6 times for 1 FR. There you go. We can see, I think I got that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually don't want, I got my 6, well, I got the code right, but I got my logic wrong. So that's correct. I don't want this to be 6 columns. However, I want this to be 5 columns. And I know there's ways to do kind of an automated responsive where they overlap. But because we're doing a Worldle thing, I don't ever want these grid items to overlap, right? Because that spells out a word, which means if the browser gets too small, I think I actually want like a horizontal scroll. I don't think we're going to be dealing with devices that are that narrow, but that's the thought process there. So columns should be 5. We have 6 rows, 5 columns. There's my styles in place. Cool. Great. So far, so good. So now I need to actually populate this content. So a user is going to have 6 guesses they can make. And I think that the way I want to approach this is with a single input, a form with a single input, that when they hit submit, I grab the content from that form or the value of that input, and then I can split on each letter. And then I can populate each letter into here. So let's start with that. We have our guesses, and then we have our form here. Action, I'm going to leave label HTML4 guess. ID equals guess, type equals text. That's fine. So now I have an interesting thing where this whole thing, I think with Worldle itself, this is the most common one. Yeah. So we don't actually see any sort of input here. And I don't know what would happen if I actually tab around the page. Yeah, it doesn't look like I get much. But when I type something, it gets populated in here. And now we get into an interesting thing, because if I'm a keyboard user, that obviously works fine. But what happens if I type while I'm focused on one of these things? Ben, I don't know what you're sending there. So me and 3Li. Oh, it's a little sticker that says accessibility. Accessibility. My terrible eyes. Yeah, so if we're thinking about accessibility, and I'm like a keyboard user, right? I can get down to a couple of these elements and see what they are. And now I'm curious, what happens if I type something and then I hit enter? So there's a weird bug with this implementation, in my opinion, is that I think the way it's built is I can type something like puppy and then hit enter. And there's a keyboard, like a window event. Does my display not render Twitch emotes? I'm actually using a platform that broadcasts to multiple things, so I'm not on Twitch, although I do get to see your chat. So yeah, I do see the little stickers in the chat, but I don't necessarily see on my screen. So I don't know if that answers your question. But looking at this, right? It remembers my previous guesses. That's smart. As I type things and I hit enter, the document must have an event listener on the window that says when someone presses the enter key, submit the current guess. And if I type nonsense and hit enter, that says, oh, the word not in word list, right? And the interesting behavior is that if I am using the keyboard to focus on that little question mark up here in the top left, and then I type something, we'll just put some nonsense anyway, and I hit enter, it actually triggers both events. So it triggers pulling up this thing, or maybe it didn't with the question mark, but if I go over to this statistics and I hit enter, we can see that the statistics button or dialog pops up, but we also see in the background the little thing that says not in word list. So that's a little interesting. I keep, here's another bug. Cool. I can keep hitting that and I keep seeing my statistics. This, of course, is not a show to find bugs in other people's applications, but I just wanted to see, if we're trying to recreate this thing, make sure that we get the behavior that we want. So what are we going to do? I think I'm pretty happy with the input approach, and I may be wrong, but we'll see. So with the input, the form is maybe going to be visually hidden eventually, but I'm going to start with everything shown. So let's see. What's your guess? Guess. That's going to be my label. My input is here. I want to give it a name. Is guess. I don't need the type, so I'm actually going to get rid of that. So we have ID, name. I think our good form should have a submit button. Cool. And I think when this lands on the page, the question is, do we want to autofocus? Autofocus can be... What up, Web Dev Journey? Let's see. So autofocus is tricky because it can be... Did I get that right? It doesn't look like I have that right. I should be focused. Is it auto dash focus? Autofocus is tricky because it can be something that makes an experience better, but you have to use it very discreetly, because things like Google search engine, right? You notice how the focus is immediately there. I can start typing. That is the behavior that you expect when you come to something like a search engine. Something like my personal website, I have a search form on there. I don't want to autofocus the search form right away, because then that's like a weird experience because it's out of context. Wikipedia also homepage uses autofocus. Wikipedia. Yeah, that's another perfect example. Like, you're coming here to search. The purpose of this website is to search for something. Something like my website, probably not. You're more likely there to read or talk crap about me. I don't know. But either way, I'm not going to put autofocus on the first input in my website. I think on this Worldle one, I want to. But I want to see, what am I doing wrong here? Because I know it's a thing. Input, name, autofocus. Try it myself. And we do see that it's working there. So am I missing? Oh, it's okay. So it looks like I had it right, but maybe the page refresh wasn't working properly. Class. Oh, that's the problem. Class. Where did I put class? There you go. That's what you get for coming to React from Vue. Do I still have the problem? Autofocus. Did I mean autofocus? That's annoying. Cool. Okay, we got it right. Looks like I still have some class name things going on. There you go. Class name. Why didn't anyone tell me in the previous streams? Come on. Looking like an idiot over here. All right, that's all sorted. Our autofocus is working. I also want to do let's say a min length. Oh man, is that really how you got to do it in React? Min length equals 5 and max length equals 5, right? Because a Worldle must have min and max. If I hit submit, that's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Min length 5, max length 5. Required? You know, okay. Submit. Okay, now I'm starting to get my validation stuff, right? So if I say 4 characters and try to submit, cool, this text, please lengthen this text to 5 characters. If I go to 6, it won't even let me type 6. So that's really one of the benefits of using this max length, is that I kind of get that maximum length UX built in for free. I don't need to do any JavaScript that says, hey, listen to a key down event. If the characters in the current guess are greater than 5, then don't do anything. So I have that built in for free with the approach I'm taking. This still may be the wrong approach. We'll see. Okay, so what do I want to do? As the user types into this input, I want to update. I want to update my current guesses. And so if I haven't made any guess, the current guess is guesses or rows at index of 0. So this is the part that I think I'm going to need some state management. And I don't use React, or haven't used it in a long time. So there is use state. Is that right? Use state. That's right. Okay, cool. I'm going to take that, and I'm wondering if this in Remix, let's look up Remix where you do state management. Maintaining form state. So it doesn't look like in Remix they use state. Remix jokes. So until we actually add JavaScript to the page, you won't be able to use things like use state. Okay, is that the only mention of use state? No. Okay. That's interesting. I definitely am going to need to use some use state. So I'm not really sure where that happens, but let's try here and say the current guess and I guess set current guess, and that's going to be just an empty thing. Oh, right. Use state should come from somewhere. Let's see if they have it available in Remix. I guess we'll see. Yeah, this is such an interesting library because it's very different. It's very much the same and also very different at the same time. So let's say my function to let's see, what do I want to do? I'm going to add a submit handler. On submit, and take the event, and we're going to say, I don't know if I want to prevent the default behavior. I still haven't decided if I want this to work entirely on the client side or do the purpose of using Remix in the first place, which is to have like a server side React-y thing going on. So I think I kind of just answered that question for me, which is to do the server side. So let's look at writing data. A few ways to call an action and get routes to revalidate. Okay, so they're using form, plain HTML forms. I think it's fine if my form action goes to the same route. We're going to say the method is going to be post because I want to send that in a body of a request. Okay, that's how I make my forms. I get it. Routes, projects. Okay, so this looks like what we're looking at. So in Remix, it looks like you submit data to a route with this exported action method in the same file. So instead of that, we have our links, which is the same idea that these are going to be this function is going to be the one that is responsible for adding links to this specific route, which in my case, I'm adding styles. And similarly, I'm going to create a route that handles the action as a request object. Interesting that the body of the request comes from a form data method. And then I don't think we actually are going to be doing any asynchronous. Well, I guess, yeah, we have to await that. So that does have to be asynchronous. But I'm going to say just let's log the body and see what we were working with over here. I don't need you. We can get back to that later. I'm going to just play with submitting this. And I think because I haven't defined the route, use state is not defined. Okay, so that wasn't going to be an option anyway. Okay. Root. Cannot read properties of undefined. Reading root. But I'm not sure what you're talking about. Remix. Should work based on the docs that you provided me. Okay, cool. So what was the problem there? I had some commented out code, some more commented out code, some more commented out code. Okay, I don't know. Okay, cool. So we wanted to say that when we submit this, I made a post request to guess, but did not provide an action for the route root. So there's no way to handle the request. Well, the action for my route is here. All right, let's just go through this. We've got the default export is a form, method is post, the action is some route, which technically I'm building the current route that I'm looking at on my form. And then very similarly, they have the action is async. Let's see. So here they define it as a named function. Over there they define it as a named or a const. So let's try that. Once action equals an async function, that shouldn't technically be any different. And they even go as far as having it be an arrow function. So just for the sake of doing things exactly the way they do it in the docs, that's an arrow function. I think that should be the same thing. This is not a routes function. This is an action function. Okay, so that should handle my request. Request form data is a promise that resolves to the form data. I don't know if I have to return something here. How about that? You happy with that? If we go back to our form and reload. Oh, Oh, okay. I see what the problem is. We were on a different route. No, we weren't. We were on the index route. Okay, so what is the problem then? This is, yeah, my routes, the index route, the action at the index should be a function that takes a request, gives me something about the form data. Okay, let's try starting from scratch, right? We are definitely exporting something named action. Is it complaining? Was it complaining that's action and not actions? No, action is correct. If I refresh, cool, got my autofocus, I got my validation, getting my error. I don't know what's going on there. Well, I'm kind of at a loss at this one. So, web dev journey, you're saying that the syntax is const action colon, not const action equals like mine. And the reason why is because they write their documentation with TypeScript. So what you're seeing here is everything up until here is JavaScript. Export const action. And then the colon here indicates that you are assigning the type or type definition of this variable to this. Well, you're assigning the type of this variable to this type definition action function. So this part here is TypeScript that gets removed, after which the equals async and then arrow function thing is the same as JavaScript. So I don't think the problem is with my syntax here. And yeah, because I'm writing JavaScript, but I'm using this comment syntax in JavaScript files, so you can accomplish the same thing. I'm saying the type of this variable is this action function, which I'm importing from the Remix library. So we can see this type annotation actually looks just like they do in the docs, where we say const action colon, it's an action function. It's handy to get things like explaining to me that the request property of this parameter is a request object. And this request object means that it has this method of form data on it, which is a function or a method that returns a promise, which eventually resolves to form data, which is all super interesting if it would work. So why is it not working? I mean, that's it. Assuming create project does what we want it to do. I don't need a redirect. I don't need more type definitions. I'm pretty sure I'm looking at what we need, right? This is technically or theoretically, this is a route at /project/new.js, which only exports a form. And that form's action is to /project/new. And we don't need to worry about the form's action because our form exists at the root route. And if we don't define the action on our form, it will default to the current page, which is the root route. So this, as far as I'm concerned, this should work. Not provide an action. Okay, well, let's see if there's someone else that's dealing with this. Get rid of that. Not using state. None of this looks like it's for Remix. By the way, if you do play Worldle, this is such a terrible first guess because we're using 3 letters. We're basically only guessing 3 different letters, P, U, and Y. Just thought I'd point that out. I don't actually play that game very much, but it does look like a fun one. So now I'm even reloading, and it's just not working. Frustrating. All right, let's get into actions. Let's see if we missed something. I don't get why this has become so viral. I think conceptually it's really promising to be able to write JavaScript that resolves for the server and for the client. So you can essentially write one route and have it resolve in both places consistently. And I think Next.js and Next, those things exist, right? Gatsby as well. But it seems like Remix is trying to get people to come back to some web platform native functionality or features, such as using forms and like default HTML form submissions and things like that, and have it allows you to build more resilient applications that you can then opt into sprinkling some JavaScript on top of. So it's weird because it's going back to how the web used to be built, I don't know, a decade ago or longer. But also allows you to unlock some of the more sexy, interactive, modern features that we have today. So, I'm just giving this a try and seeing how it feels. So let's see if we can get this to work. So we're going to create a form that creates we're going to build a form to create a new post in our new route. So we add a form. I don't know how relevant it is that they're importing a form component as opposed to using a built-in form element, like HTML element. It looks like in different examples they don't use the component, so I'm going to stick to my guns here and use the HTML one. Okay, you're about to have your mind blown. Oh, correction on my explanation of why Remix is viral. Why Worldle has become so viral. That's twice in the same stream that I've completely misinterpreted what someone said. Worldle, I don't know. It's got a good name. That might have something to do with it. But why Worldle has become so viral, I don't know. Have you tried it? It's fun. I like it. I have played it once and enjoyed it, so it wasn't enough to make me come back, but I got nothing against it. Okay, so let's create an essential code that knows how to save a post first in our post.tx module. Worldle's emoji based. Yeah, I agree. When it makes it so easy to just like, well, I think the thing is when you complete a Worldle, they just capture that little moment of victory to say, hey, do you want to boast about this a little bit to all your peers so everyone knows how smart you are? Probably not how they actually thought about it, but yeah, they did kind of capture that key moment right when you win to say, cool, now go and spread the word, the Worldle, about your little victory, and it helps them out too. So it's like a win-win. Yeah, compared to other like Hangman style games, I think it is a little bit different. Is it different? It's different in that it tells you if you have the correct letter in the right place, or you have a letter in the word that's in the right place, or not quite in the right place. And yeah, you only have a few guesses. So I don't know. Like I said, I enjoyed it, but it's not something I would spend much more time on. All right, so here's what we're at, right? This is the page that I'm supposed to have is /routes / whatever route I want it to be. And I'm supposed to be able to just export a const called action. This is frustrating. It makes me sad. It makes me sad that it's not working. I'm kind of at a loss. I might have to figure this out off the stream and come back because I don't want to spend too much time just like banging my head against the wall. So now I need to figure out what I can do in the meantime to finish up. Made a post request. Oh, you know what the weird thing is though here is it's telling me I made a post request, but when it actually loaded the page, it sent the data as a query parameter, which is not the default browser behavior. If I say post, that should have sent in the request body, not in the query parameter. But yeah, we'll see. All right, well, so what sort of cool stuff can I do until I can get this to work? I have no idea. I can try to do some styles for if the things are. So let's say this second array is going to be. It's going to have some letters in it. Let's go back to just having some letters. Oh, that shouldn't be there. That probably shouldn't be there. Oh no, how many of these do I have? Is that right? That. I should only have 2 and I have 3. Okay, cool. So we go back to our page. We should now see a big ol' error because how strange. Okay, no, my post request is no longer. Okay, that's weird. This is very strange. When I submit this, it does send it as a post request. This is a post request. If I refresh the browser, that should... Oh, that is still sending a post request. Okay. If I go back, then I get the get request. That's fine. Okay. Cool. Let's style these how we want. So I'm going to say, as I loop over each one of these, that's going to be the class name. And we're going to say the class name is actually going to be a string And we'll say here's what I'm going to do. That if the index is even, then we're going to say even. Otherwise, will be odd. I think that syntax is correct. And then if we look at this, we should see some classes. Yep. Odd, even, odd. That's what we would expect. I'm going to do a little bit of styling here where we have background colors of gray. That should be fine. Background color is that. Sure. Green and yellow. So gray represents the colors that you got wrong. Green represents, we have some cool greens. I like that chartreuse. Lawn green, that's a pretty good green. Yeah, I'm gonna go up with this chartreuse. And since we're doing that sexy named color, we're gonna do another one for the gray as well. I think there's like a slate in there somewhere. Or no, white smoke, that's what I want. But that's too light. Let's do the slate. We'll do slate gray. Now, do we do slate gray with an A or with an E? Well, I called mine with an E. So we're going to stick with an E. White smoke crew represent. That's right. That's a cool color. Actually, I'm going to be super annoying, and I'm going to say you spell the class name with an E, and the color is with an A. Yellow. Okay, so here we want a yellow. Who wants to help me pick a yellow? That annoyed some people. That's funny. Dark goldenrod. Pale goldenrod. Dang, you got your colors off the top of your head. Goldenrod. We'll stick with the goldenrod family, and you're looking at pale goldenrod, huh? It's got to be around here. Pale goldenrod. That looks. I mean, we don't have to do the Worldle thing, but I should probably try and get something right so we can see. Let's go with chore. Okay, so we got a green. Lapis. And we got an L. What's the colors that we're looking at? I'm way off with that green, but I like it. And we can stick with the pale goldenrod. Down with goldenrod. Oh, and maybe not. Pale goldenrod too light. Let's stick with goldenrod then. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So, right. So these are the colors I'm going to use. I think we're going to say here, the logic, this even odd thing doesn't really matter right now. I'm going to say background green, background yellow, just so we can kind of see what we're working with. Looks terrible. Something else that we've got here, or that they've got here that we don't have, is actually the borders are only there when the guesses have not been made, and they've got a little gap going on. So I'm going to solve the gap thing first by saying my grid is that many columns. I'm going to say the gap is I'm going to say gap is 4. And then we're going to do a similar thing here. Grid gap is gap of 0.25 rems, which again equates to 4 pixels, and I didn't put my logical thing there. So cool, we've got our gap. It really should have been for both directions, not just between the columns, but also between the rows. That's interesting. Do I need to do like auto rows? No, that should be the default value. So this is the first time that I've seen a grid layout where my gap doesn't apply both to columns and rows. And I wonder if that's something to do with my Bedrock CSS styles. Okay, Bedrocks. No, that's not going to be it, because that looks like gaps, but it doesn't, because that's the border color. Huh. Box sizing. Still not getting that quite right. But all right, we're going to keep going with our border color things. So I have border color white, right? That's actually not what I want. I'm going to have to play around with these border colors a bit. And the way I'm going to do it is say that everything is actually going to have a border color of gray by default. So where's my border white? This is actually, everything's going to be gray. Cool, we're there. So here I'm going to say, if it's even, I'm going to show the we got it correct state. I'm going to do a little bit more logic here, which we're going to remove eventually. If the letter index equals 0, then we're going to say background is gray. Oh, slipped myself up. Otherwise, we're going to have this super ugly multi-dimensional ternary thing. But we can deal with that. My camera's having issues again. What is going on, CamiCam? Yeah, I don't know, but that's all right. Mic still works. Thing still works. Oh, camera works now. Thank you. Cool. So now everything's working as we expect, where we have the first ones are gray, the evens are green, the odds are yellow, the evens are green, the odds are yellow. And the one thing I want to do is account for this behavior where when we have a filled in background, you don't see the border on either gray, yellow, or green. And when we don't have anything filled in, then we do have that border. So the way I want to do this is the border is always there, because it's a little bit weird when you play with border sizes and you say, well, in this case, we want a border, and in these cases, we don't. That could actually throw off a little bit of how the content inside affects, or how the content inside is laid out for the scenarios where we don't have a border versus when we do. Of course, in this game, that doesn't really matter, because when we have a border, we don't have content. So I'd actually be curious to see if they took the approach that I am taking. where the computed styles on a filled element does not have a border. Interesting. But on the ones that are empty, it does have a border. So yeah, when the state is empty, yep, tile where the data state equals empty, we add a border. That may be a smart approach, or an approach that requires less CSS. But I'm gonna stick to my guns here and say, well, I'll do it both ways. And question: wouldn't outline solve that? Outline would work, and you could do an outline with an inset. So if we look at this particular element and we get rid of that background color and we say, or like a box shadow would work. I don't know if outline you can do inset. Outline, inset, let's say like red 5 pixels. No, so see, that still goes to the outside, and I want to stay within the confines of my element. So I could do a box shadow of, like, what's the syntax for box shadow? I think it's like 0, 0, 0, negative 4 pixels red. Okay, no, I got that backwards. This is going to be the spread. The spread I want also 0, and I think this I want negative 4 pixels then. No, what am I doing wrong here? CSS box shadow inset, or maybe I am thinking outline. XY spread color. Yeah, there's a way you can do like essentially instead of a box shadow going out away from the element, you can have it coming inside from the corners. Inset. Okay, there we go. That's the thing that I'm missing. It's where are we? Here. Box shadow is inset. That's the spread. And I want this to be, there you go. So you could do something like this. I'll zoom in so we can see where if I wanted, I could get rid of the border there. And that actually is not a bad idea. Like, we kind of came to that. I got your help on this one, but we kind of came to that where, you're thinking box shadow or outline might work. And in fact, yeah, the box shadow that we have here, compared to the other elements, so this letter D, it's not being pushed at all out of place by the border, right? So if I look at this, let's look at these 2 letter Ds, and I look at this one, it's got no border at this point. So if I keep on bumping up that shadow, the D is not affected, right? So we'll say 4 pixels. And if I look at the one directly above it and we say border, and what would we have? 4 pixels, solid red. You can see how it gets shifted. So there is some padding on this element that I guess we can maybe make it more obvious by omitting the padding. So there's 2 things that happen. One is because we're using a border, the letter is being moved horizontally. And it's also being moved vertically, which ends up affecting the vertical space of not just this letter, but the entire row. So all of these D's have this like gap underneath. So yeah, maybe the box shadow is the right approach. So then we're only adding background colors, and then in the case that it's empty, we can do a box shadow. We're a little bit past on the stream, but I feel like I wasted so much time debugging that I want to keep going on something. There's another thing that I wanted to do. Get a host until utils. Do I have my random? No. So what I want to do is essentially make this a little bit more interesting. And instead of always returning a D, we can say math.floor, math.random times 6. No. I want math.round, math.random, and I think I say that should either give me a positive or 1 or 0, right? So math floor, math.random, and if so, we'll do nothing, and if not, we'll do a letter. Okay, so what am I doing here? What am I trying to accomplish is I want exactly this. I want a scenario where some of them are filled out, some of them are not. We can keep that zoomed in so that I can say one more thing is if now I'm going to give them some semantic meaning where this tile, right? This is the tile, is going to be a letter. Then my letter, if it's empty, is going to have that outline we were talking about, which is now gone. Setting the padding to the size of the shadow, fix this. Yes, that's not the point that I was trying to explain, where we have some overlapping of the shadow and the content. My point was simply to show that the way that borders work can influence where the content is in unexpected ways, where if you don't want that to happen, you can use something like box shadow. So let's say box shadow inset 0.25 rem slate gray. And we have, did I not do that right? I did not do that right. Once again, 0.25 slate gray. Cool. So that's a really nice way to use CSS without having to calculate or add anything else to the DOM for when a row is empty, that we can just say, hey, there's nothing in it. So let's do some extra styles. So in theory, you wouldn't see a layout like this. You would only see, the first guesses along the top and the bottom. I do want to say that on these, we no longer want our border and we don't want the border color. We're happy with the padding and we're happy with the backgrounds. So reload. Now we have it correct where presumably these empty ones are also have an outline inset. The ones that would be theoretically correct guesses in the wrong place only have the background color, and the ones that are correct guesses in the correct place only have the green background color. Cool. that is going to be it for today. So what did we go over? We had some issues with Remix doing the form submission, so I have to look into that. But we did get into some interesting stuff around some CSS. So we figured out that Remix also has a problem with putting your CSS files right next to your routes, unfortunately, because I would like that. I like to put my assets right next to my components because that keeps them a little bit easier to manage in case you add or remove components. You know where to find styles that are easy to get rid of. And we did a little bit more on some CSS stuff, like laying out some grids. We have a little bit of atomic CSS, which you may or may not like. We looked at the CSS empty selector, which is cool. And that's about it so far. I'm going to see if I can tackle this or figure out this problem so that tomorrow on the stream we can do something a little bit more productive and actually start managing some of the state of the application, and when someone makes a guess, if it's right or wrong or whatever. So the theory right now is that we'll keep the state of the application on the back end and have Remix coordinate talking from the front end and the back end and keeping the logic showing the user the state of the application. So thanks again for coming. It was a pleasure chatting with y'all. And I hope that you had fun and you'll be back. Come back with questions. If you want to show me something cool you're working on, I'm happy to take a look at those too. Cool? I'll see ya.